my name is John Hanson. I'm with the National Ready Mix Concrete Association. Through the course of this video, we're going to walk you through the process of doing concrete overlays on top of asphalt parking lots. Now, this may be a concept that's foreign to some of you and thinking that you can pave directly on top of other pavements. But think about creating a composite pavement or resurfacing the existing asphalt with a longer lasting, durable concrete layer on top. Or if you want to add additional concrete to up the load carrying capacity of the existing asphalt parking lot to change its use. We're going to be referencing today a guide that was prepared specifically for doing overlays of existing asphalt parking lots. And before 2012, a document like this did not exist. We've been doing concrete overlays for over 40 years of parking lots. So this is not a new technology, but the ability to take the technology and make it available to the masses across the United States have just come into being by compiling all the information into a concrete overlay guide. That concrete overlay guide was prepared by the National Concrete Pavement Technology Center, who is the expert in doing all types of concrete paving across the nation. And it's a guide that's been put together to be geographically unsensitive. What do I mean by that? Is that it can be used anywhere in the United States with any type of existing asphalt pavement in place, taking into consideration what the mean average daily temperature is for those areas, and that determines what the concrete thickness will be for any given application. This is a widely accepted practice, not only endorsed by the Ready Mix Association, but also by the Concrete Paving Association for doing composite pavements. And when we talk about composite pavements, we think about the terminology of doing in layers and layers building strength into a new pavement. And that's why a thin layer of concrete on something as thin as 3 inches on an existing asphalt pavement works very well for long-term durability. Think about taking a piece of plywood, and this plywood gets its strength from layers and from different layers being bonded together. And that's really the concept we have when we place concrete on top of asphalt and we bond it to the old asphalt pavement. The guide was put together in conjunction with the National Ready Mix Concrete Research and Education Foundation, who brought it to the industry at no charge. What do you say by no charge? Well, it's free for a download that anybody can grab as a free PDF. You can buy printed copies for a very small fee, but it was not the intent of putting this document together to sell it as a profit. We wanted, more importantly, to get the information out to the design community on how to properly design, evaluate, and determine the thickness for the overlay. It was also designed for the contractor, who could use the document to look at the best practices and the proven practices that have been developed for over 40 years of research and proven applications to make these applications successful. In the course of 40 years, you learn a lot of things that will work, but also you learn a lot of things that don't work. And so the intent of this is then to make sure every contractor has a proven guide to work from when constructing these overlays. Let's delve into why we wrote the overlay guide and why it's become the document for doing these types of projects. Prior to 2012, when the guide was published, we didn't have any definitive document that would teach a contractor or a designer on how to design and build an overlay project. We had a lot of other documents that referenced overlays on parking lots that really weren't, though, the guide for how to construct them. So we put together a team of experts, much like the concept of an ACI document, and we brought together industry experts from the engineering community, from the construction community, and we put together the document with a committee of those people contributing for the best practices of the proven practices that have been done for over 40 years. Some of the tough things that were hard to do in the beginning was to determine what type of shape the existing asphalt pavement was in. We know that the asphalt pavement has a really good base under it because it's one of the things that an asphalt contractor does is prepare a very good base for paving the top course on. If we take a look at the existing asphalt pavement, we're able to determine what type of shape that existing asphalt surface layer is in, and then also if there's any problems down below in the base layer, it'll show up in the way of potholes and sinkholes and maybe places where the pavement has either heaved or shoved. By evaluating the existing asphalt pavement, we can then determine what the best approach is. The guide shows us on how to do an observation of the existing pavement. It walks us through investigative procedures on determining what the thickness of the old asphalt pavement would be, and then with charts that are developed through the BCOA, which is the Bonded Concrete Overlay of Asphalt Pavements put out by the American Concrete Paving Association, we are able to look geographically at that mean average daily temperature, determine what the thickness will be of the new concrete overlay. And that is the beginning of our process of the investigation of the existing project. Once we determine what the condition is of the existing asphalt, we're able to determine what the best approach will be for doing a concrete overlay on top of the existing asphalt. By using the guides in the book, we give visual pictures on evaluating the condition of the asphalt and determining which type of distress that we may have in the pavement, and we're able then to move forward by determining the thickness of the concrete that will be on top of it. We've then broken the parking lot down into 3 distinct areas: the heavy-duty loads, the light-duty loads, and the industrial loads. And you can see that we have now determined that maybe those thicknesses need to be different in those different areas of the parking lot based on the existing condition that the asphalt contractor left with base material when he constructed it initially. Then we determine what the joint spacing will be, and we lay out the joint spacing based on a conservative joint spacing arrangement, and we're ready to pave. From a construction standpoint, what had really moved this technology forward is the advent of the 3D guided laser screed that's come into play over the last 15 to 20 years. Now, prior to this, overlays of parking lots were done with string lines and hub stakes and pipe screeds and things like that with truss screeds, and it was a very long process. What has really changed the process is the 3D laser screed and the total station applications that allow it to read the existing contours of a parking lot and correct any low spots or bird baths or water low spots that may occur in the existing pavement, and correct those with the placement of the 3D laser screen. It has not only changed that aspect of it, but the production side now has moved from just a couple thousand of square feet per day to over tens of thousands of square feet per day that can be done with the 3D laser screen. The advent of the soft cut saw also has helped with this, because now we can get on the pavements quicker and we can saw cut them faster and at the right time, and more importantly is the right time and the right depth of cut with the soft cut saw. You're going to hear us talk a lot about saw cutting and timeliness of saw cutting and the size of panels, and that's very important when we look at overlays. Leonard will talk more about the importance of saw cutting and the timeliness of saw cutting, but we can't stress enough to you how important it is to get the joint layout done in a conservative manner and the saw cutting done at the right time. You're also going to hear us talk about the surface being clean and dry. It's one of the important things that we have to look at, because when we build a composite pavement, we're looking at bonding the concrete into that existing asphalt. And how do we do that? We bond it with the exposed aggregate that is laying on the surface of the existing asphalt. So one of the rules of thumbs we want to look at is we want to look at a pavement that doesn't have a fresh seal coat. The fresh seal coat will act as a bond breaker, and so we want to look at something that has exposed aggregate and a seal coat that's probably 4 or 5 years old, so we get that bond to form that composite pavement. Once the initial process is done, NRMCA is ready to supply you with a design assistance program. You'll hear more about that in the next segment.
My name is Amanda Holt, and I am the Director of Pavement Structures for the National Ready Mix Concrete Association. As an engineer with NRMCA, I oversee the Design Assistance Program, which provides pavement recommendations for new and existing pavements. For the Design Assistance Program, NRMCA can provide pavement recommendations for streets and local roads as well as parking lots. These recommendations can be used in the bidding process as well as for planning purposes. Joint plans can also be used to help with construction of the parking lots. You can find the application for the Design Assistance Program at the Parking Lots or the Streets and Local Roads link on concretepromotions.org. NRMCA requests the Geotech report for pavement recommendations. If this report is not available, a pavement section can still be supplied. The pavement reports can be supplied for new or existing pavements. We can also provide reports for conventional concrete, roller compacted concrete, pervious concrete, and concrete overlays. The pavement reports can be any of those or a combination of several of the different types of pavements. Within the pavement report, you will find a project description as well as any environmental information that is known about the project. Traffic information and subgrade soils information will also be provided. New and existing pavement sections will be determined and placed in the report. A life cycle cost analysis can also be provided for the pavement section. Sustainability and specifications can also be included in the report. Here you will find a copy of our cover letter for our pavement report. It is signed by a licensed professional engineer, but is not sealed. Here you will find an example of our pavement design reports. It is typically 8 to 10 pages in length and has a summary report, as well as very detailed information on the pavement section. Along with the pavement recommendations, you will also be supplied a jointing plan. Here's an example of a recommended jointing plan. We'll label the joint plan with the recommended joint spacing, as well as the different types of joints that are located on your site. We'll also include a list of general notes that can be used for your jointing plan. All of these notes are taken from ACI 330. These jointing plans can be a collaboration between NRMCA, the engineer of record, as well as the contractor. Last thing in the report is your guide specification. Here we have a guide specification for streets and local roads, as well as a separate guide specification for parking lots. The information is fill in the blank and can be modified to fit your project. In producing recommendations for overlays, the Guide to Concrete Overlays of Asphalt Parking Lots was used. NRMCA incorporated this guide into the pavement recommendations for the Pinehurst Country Club in Denver, Colorado. NRMCA collaborated with the contractor on Pinehurst Country Club for joint plans as well as pavement recommendations. When providing pavement recommendations, NRMCA incorporates the ACI 330 design chart. This design chart takes into consideration the subgrade soils that are on the site, as well as the traffic that will be utilizing the concrete parking lot. Additional information may be found on concretepromotions.org. In the upper left-hand side on the screen, you will see a link for parking lots, and then just below it, you will see a link for streets and local roads. More information can be found on each of those.
Thanks, Amanda, for that overview of the Design Assistance Program. It should be remembered that the Design Assistance Program through NRMCA, or the National Ready Mix Concrete Association, is not in competition with local designers. It's simply a way to get a free second opinion, or in some cases, just to do the heavy lifting of the design, where the local engineer and consultant will take a look, sign off on those plans that are ready for construction, or make changes that they see fit for the application. Once the Design Assistance Program is done, you're ready to approach a qualified contractor to look at your project. You can supply them the Design Assistance Program information that we prepared through the National Ready Mix Concrete Association, and he'll bring his own ideas into the project.
Hi, I'm Leonard Velasquez, SLB Quality Concrete. The presentation that was given by John Hansen earlier of what the NRMCA could provide to help the contractor and the job is crucial to a successful project. After that has been done with the design and evaluation, the process is to turn it over to a contractor, because at some point there has to be an estimate done for this. You need to work with the clients. You need to make sure that you are using life cycle analysis, whatever is available to you to make the client understand this is an actual good process to do to eliminate a lot of costs moving on into the future. After that is done and you successfully sell the job to the client, it's time to go ahead and design the work based off of the design that you get from organizations like the NRMCA, which is a guideline. It's not an engineered plan for the project, but it can be used as a great reference to give you joint layout, load carrying capacity of the pavement that you're going to put on top, the concrete that you're going to put on top, coupled with some of your own experience from the past is how you come up with a good project. After my job is done as the contractor to go ahead and sell the project to the client, now comes the real important job of the contractor, and that's to go ahead and design the work. Let's talk about Pinehurst. The conditions at Pinehurst for an overlay were perfect. The asphalt overall had low stress. There was very few places that were higher stress in areas. One of the challenges of Pinehurst was to address the drainage. I accomplished this by overlaying the curb. I actually took out the back of the curb and raised up the top of the curb 3 inches. That allowed me to go ahead and get the lot to drain right. The reason it wasn't draining right was originally the curb and gutter and everything was put in right, but they didn't have wide enough valley pans in the area where they needed wider valley pans. And there was one overlay that was done at some point in its life where they put 1.5 inches of asphalt over 3 inches of asphalt, but they transitioned into the curb and gutter, which was actually causing a blockage of the water instead of letting it drain like it should have. That's why I raised the curb. Another challenge that needs to be worked out for a successful project is very important to work with the facilities management to be able to stage your work to where it has the least effect on what's going on within the facility. As a contractor, this is what I feel is very important. A lot of different steps that has to be brought together. We have great design assistance from the NRMCA with their design program, but you got to couple that with a lot of coordination, good pre-planning, good material. There's just a lot of things that need to come together to give the owner what they're paying for. A long-term pavement. A real important step getting ready for pavement before that is to go and address the cracks past a certain width. And it talks about that in the design manual. When does a crack need to be addressed, how wide, and what you should do. One way to do that is to fill it with crusher fines and fill the crack so that it doesn't give an irregularity to the bottom of the concrete. There's other ways to do it with flowable fill. I actually, on some of the cut across on Pinehurst, we went ahead and put concrete back. What's really important that the concrete that you're overlaying the asphalt with doesn't see a lot of variance in the subbase. You want to keep that as uniform as possible. Prior to actual placement of the concrete, you want to clean, as it was stated earlier, so that there is a good bond of the concrete to the asphalt. Prior to the placement, getting ready for the laser screeds, next day's pour, grade needs to be established for drainage, the top grade. That's accomplished by several different ways, but they like pins around every 20 foot. After that is set by me, the contractor, the operator of the laser screed will come in and shoot the top of the pins. That actually gives grade into the computer program that the next day will be used to let the laser screed know where it's at and tells the screed where to put the grade at. Very important step. In preparation for paving, it's very important to go ahead and address the top of the asphalt and areas of distress, which could be areas that need to be removed if there's a lot of distress, recompacted, or put back with flowable fill. Large cuts in the asphalt or cracks can be addressed through putting in a sand material or a flowable fill. Also at Pinehurst, the facility needed to have some underground piping put prior to the actual placement of the concrete. So all of that work needs to be done way ahead of paving, so when you're actually paving, you don't have to be holding back for anything. In the design of the construction of the pavement, another step is to design how you're going to tie into existing structures or pavements that are already there. One way to go ahead and transition into existing curb and gutter pavement is milling. You mill down the thickness of what's needed for the concrete pavement, and then you transition that up in 10 feet, 8 feet, 10 feet, so it's not noticed. The other issue that you need to deal with is existing manholes, light poles. There could be a lot of things in a parking lot that need to be addressed. At Pinehurst, I went ahead and raised the manhole cover to compensate for the new pavement.